So yeah, work for Scottish Enterprise. For those of you who don't know, that's a publicly funded economic development agency here in Scotland. Basic mission to grow the economy, and my role, as put there, is specifically around the hydrogen economy. I'm going to talk a little bit today about some supply chain opportunities, what the capabilities of the supply chain are in Scotland, or what we believe they are, the pipeline that's coming up, and some of the support that's available. So hydrogen is a top priority for us at Scottish Enterprise. It really hits on three really important target areas. We believe that we can't fully capitalise on Scotland's renewable resource without tapping into hydrogen, and we probably also can't fully decarbonise our economy without it either. But from a Scottish Enterprise perspective, more importantly, we think that it's a massive opportunity for investment, for export and for trade. And also for diversification and transition for our supply chain. We want to deliver a hydrogen economy in Scotland with maximum Scottish content and maximum benefit for Scotland. So at this point, SE's role in this early stage sector really is about facilitation. We're doing a lot of joining dots. We're doing a lot of putting information out there to the market. Some of the activities that we're doing are listed around the circle there on the screen, and I'll expand on some of those later. But as a general message in all the sectors that we look at, we tend to focus in on these three I's. So international, innovation, and investment. And I'll talk more about all three of those on my next slide. So on innovation, Scotland's actually got a really impressive history in innovation in hydrogen. We've got a number of world-leading demonstrator projects that have been implemented in the last 10 years or so. We've actually got a whole new raft of innovation projects just about to kick off. 32 of them were funded. Our funding was announced for 32 of them just the other day from Scottish Government. £7 million, I think it was, through the Hydrogen Innovation Scheme. So loads more projects to come. We have the Energy Technology Partnership working with our universities, all doing hydrogen research. And something new that's coming, the Scottish Hydrogen Innovation Network, is one of the commitments in the Scottish Government's Hydrogen Action Plan. And that's going to link together those universities with other test and demonstration sites and innovation centres, hopefully avoiding duplication, maximising the impact of that work, and also helping companies to engage with that innovation ecosystem as well. On the investment side, one of the things we're doing is putting out a lot of reports. So we've done reports recently on hydrogen production sites. So we did one last year that focused on larger scale production. And then we've just published one now that focuses more on smaller scale distributed production of hydrogen. Reports on the demand side as well. So again, just published some reports on transport and industry demand for hydrogen. Those are building on some previous reports that have come before. We also did one that zoomed in specifically on the distillery sector and the opportunities for using hydrogen there. All of this information in these reports is really geared towards de-risking investment in projects, getting conversations started. The reports that I mentioned really are hot off the press. They were just published last week. So if you would like to know more about any of those, please do get in touch and we can share those with you. Those are out in the public domain. Also on the investment side, we are monitoring the project landscape as it evolves here in Scotland. A bit more on that later, but just to say now that we're working closely with projects to help them to become investor ready and to link them up with investors as well. On international, there's a lot of global investment and interest in hydrogen at the moment. We're trying to bring as much of that as we can to Scotland. Electrolyser manufacturers is a key target for us. So electrolysers are the machines that you use to produce green hydrogen. And then large-scale project developers as well that are looking to come and tap into our renewable resources here in Scotland to produce that hydrogen. So those are two key targets for inward investment. We're also working with Scottish companies in terms of international trade. So hydrogen is something that's not just happening here, it's happening all over the world, and we're trying to make sure that Scottish companies can get involved in project opportunities in other countries as well. The other thing on the slide there is export. So hydrogen is something that we have the capacity in Scotland to produce far more than we can use, and so exporting hydrogen is something that we're looking to as a key future opportunity for the Scottish economy. We're really trying to get the message out there that Scotland has the resources and the means to supply other countries that maybe can't produce as much as they're going to need. But the main area of focus for this presentation is really around our supply chain work. As I mentioned before, we think this is a huge opportunity for the Scottish supply chain in terms of diversification and transition. Quite a big focus there is around our existing oil and gas supply chain and the skills that they have that can transfer into this new space. We have started doing some detailed company-based analysis. This is a work in progress, but so far on our list, we've got 888 companies. That number is rising all the time. 81 that we're aware of already involved in hydrogen projects, and another 56 that we're aware of that have confirmed their interest in the sector. And then 751, I think, where we are not aware specifically of their interest or their plans, but we believe from knowing what they do now that they have transferable skills and capabilities to get into this space. And you can see here the widespread of capabilities that we've identified. It's really important for us to have this baseline knowledge. It underpins everything else that we're doing, everything I mentioned in the previous slide. But if we can't get the supply chain piece right, then we're really going to miss out on all the economic benefits from this new sector. We're hoping to get all this information into a publishable state, help for companies, help for developers, help for investors by putting this online, listing all the companies and what they do. But the main thing for us is really trying to understand how we can support those companies using the various tools on offer across Team Scotland organisations to get into hydrogen and grow in hydrogen. And I'll talk a bit more about that later. Other thing to mention here, the Scottish Government Action Plan I've already talked about. Another commitment in that was to establish a hydrogen supply chain cluster. So we're working hard on this in Scottish Enterprise. We see that as being a key resource going forwards in terms of working with those companies and helping them to transition into this space. This would include highlighting tendering opportunities to those companies, for example, when projects start to come about. But in addition to understanding the capability and capacity of Scotland's supply chain, in essence what we have, it's also really important for us to understand what we need so we can then try and match the two up. So we're working to understand what the market opportunities are in this space. So what specific components are going to be required, how many of them, by when. We really need to be able to effectively communicate this out to that supply chain, to companies, to allow them to be confident to invest their time and money in moving into this area. There was a report that came out last year published by the Scottish Government on electrolyzers and what's inside them, and we're hoping to kind of replicate that and do a few more studies along those lines for some of the other technology components within that hydrogen economy. That report last year really showed that Scotland's supply chain is very well positioned for electrolyzers specifically, and we're hoping, as I say, to prove that for other technologies as well. So we've got the companies, or we believe we do, but what about the project opportunities? Are they real? The Scottish Government has an ambition of 5 gigawatts of installed production capacity of hydrogen by 2030. That is a massive amount, starting from pretty much zero now. So how likely are we to actually reach that? Well, we've been tracking the projects as well as we can. There's always some information we don't know, but we're aware just now of, I think it says 87 production projects on there. I think that from when I made this slide till now, which is about a week, I think it's now over 90. The number is growing all the time. It's a very healthy pipeline, and that's just projects on the production side as well. There's a lot of projects on the demand side alongside that. In terms of timescales, we're aware of there's 24 there that are aiming to start producing hydrogen in the next 3 years. So that means tender opportunities coming soon. This is a real thing, and it's not miles in the future. It's happening now. You will notice on the cumulative graph in the bottom corner, those first 24 projects are not getting us all that far in terms of that installed capacity. It's because they're relatively small projects to begin with, or certainly small in terms of that gigawatt ambition, but worthwhile noting that they are still huge in terms of comparison to whatever's gone before. So they're vitally important to prove the scalability of the technology, to prove the market mechanisms, and really, vital stepping stones on the way to that large-scale future that we're hoping for. And the projects that we do know, both the planned scale and time scale for, are all plotted on that cumulative graph, and they do have us reaching that 5 gigawatt ambition by 2030. So that is quite positive and encouraging in terms of that project pipeline. I said earlier, we're trying to understand how best to support companies. This can often mean directing them to existing services. So ourselves at Scottish Enterprise, along with our sister agencies at Highlands and Isles Enterprise and South of Scotland Enterprise, are really doing facilitation work just now, making connections. We're hosting events, we're putting out reports, obviously, as well as more in-depth company support through things like account management, which can lead to R&D grants, for example. Specific support on skills from Skills Development Scotland, from the Energy Skills Partnership, working with our colleges. There's support on manufacturing from the Scottish Manufacturing Advisory Service and the National Manufacturing Institute. On innovation, I've talked about the ETP already. They are offering a hydrogen innovation program, which can provide small grants to companies that want to partner with universities and work on innovation projects. There's also Shine, no logo yet, but I said earlier that's coming soon as an innovation network for Scotland. There's very active trade bodies on hydrogen in Scotland, so the Scottish Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Association is one, the North East Carbon Capture, Utilisation and Storage as well, working more on the blue hydrogen side, coming to the colours that you were talking about. There's also regional bodies as well, providing supply chain support for certain parts of Scotland, and also providing innovation zones. So, for example, the Michelin Scotland Innovation Park in Dundee, the Energy Transition Zone coming in Aberdeen. On the international front, we've got SDI. I mentioned earlier about the inward investment, about the trade opportunities, so they're covering all of that. And of course, Scottish Government also providing a very favourable policy environment for hydrogen development. They're also commissioning useful reports as well, and providing grant funding for hydrogen projects and for innovation. I said earlier about the cluster, hopefully coming soon, so watch this space on that one, but that's going to hopefully tie a lot of that together and bolster the support that's available to the growing Scottish hydrogen supply chain. So lots of support on offer and more coming. I just want to use my last slide to focus in on one particular support offering that Scottish Enterprise has just launched last month, called Hydrogen Expert Support. So it's a new service that is offering 2 days of free consultancy to hydrogen supply chain companies or prospective hydrogen supply chain companies. So 2 fully funded days, and then a possibility of additional 4 days at 50% funding if they want to delve deeper. It's open to companies looking to understand their place in the hydrogen sector, really focusing in on companies that are doing manufacturing, providing technical services. You must have a base in the Scottish Enterprise area, so that's kind of the central belt and up the east coast. But if you apply successfully, our experts will work with you to evaluate how your capabilities can be transferred into the hydrogen space, help you understand the market and the support that's available, or if you're already in the hydrogen market, to help increase your presence there and increase your manufacturing capabilities. So in applications for this, we're really looking for companies to justify why they need this support, why they want this support. So if you want to find out more, check out the website. I think the slides will be shared afterwards, or come and find me, or go to the Scottish Enterprise stand. We've had a lot of interest in the first month. I think we've already approved over 10 projects or over 10 companies for support, but we're looking to approve 50 over the first kind of trial period of this support. So get in there fast. Thank you very much. If you'd like to talk any more about any of the things I've mentioned, then please come and grab me. I'm happy to take questions now if there's time. Or, as I say, come and grab me, or go to the Scottish Enterprise stand and you can be given my details. Thank you.